What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Park Baseball 26, where we are rebuilding the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we're joining you from the beginning of June 2028, where our Pirates are maybe surprising contenders this season. You know, we're ranked second in the most recent power rankings in the MLB. We're sitting pretty at the top of the NL Central at 34-23. And we've got a number of players competing for league-leading categories across both hitting and pitching. So all around, a positive start to the season for our Buccos. In this episode, we're going to look to move through the majority of June and early July. And, you know, there are a couple of things on the calendar that we're looking forward to. We have the scouting combine beginning on June 7th, and that will last for, I believe, 4 days through the 10th. And then another thing we're looking forward to before the draft, obviously, the draft day itself is on July 11th. We're going to look to simulate up into that point in this video, so we're really only going to cover about a month of game time here, but you know, kind of halfway through the season here in early July, I'm going to look to make a bunch of minor league promotions and kind of reshuffle all the prospects in our system. So we can take a look at that together as well, just kind of guys who have played above their level and, you know, deserve to be promoted at the halfway point of the season. So we'll look to do that in between, and then, you know, we'll kind of see how the storylines develop at the major league level. Right now we're, fully healthy team, no injuries, knock on wood. Everyone's performing well. So, Brian Reynolds withstanding, everyone is performing pretty well. So we're going to kind of see what ends up unfolding with the team, if we can remain competitive. And then maybe a bit of homework, too, is to sort of like reconsider, or I guess not reconsider, but consider for the first time maybe our potential needs at the trade deadline. Because, you know, while we're not going to attack that in today's episode, it's going to be a next episode. So if you have any thoughts on, you know, pieces we may need to add if we're looking to compete this year, definitely get those in at the end of this video. But that's the plan. I mean, we've got a little bit of baseball in front of us, but I think I'm just going to, you know, get straight into the scouting combine, and we can kind of take a look at any notable players that might be around. This year we do pick a little bit later, I believe at 16. Yeah, so kind of right, you know, dead in the middle of the first round. So maybe we're going to need to get lucky to get a real top-end piece there. But we can take a look at, you know, who's maybe projected to go in the mock draft and kind of sculpt out a couple of, you know, plan A, plan B, plan C, and kind of go from there. But before we get into actually playing the baseball today, I, of course, just wanted to reiterate my thanks for you, or to you, for continuing to return to these videos. I mentioned in the last episode that we have been getting a lot more comments lately, and that's really encouraging. You know, I love to see the interaction with the team and like the series. You know, I like that you guys are as invested in it as I am. So definitely keep those coming. I'm like happy to keep the conversation going as we continue moving along here. Definitely once we get to the draft at the end of this episode, I'll advance up to our pick, and we can kind of look and see who's available on the board. So it'll be a good opportunity for you to voice some feedback there. But I'm going to pop off camera here. I mean, I think that's all the table setting done for the episode. You know, last we kind of left with the team. We outlined 2 changes that we wanted to make, and I ended up doing that. We shifted Endy's backup catcher role to just be if Alfonso was tired, so we're really dialing back his playing time against righties. He's also going to remain our catcher against lefties for the time being. And then on the pitching staff, we swapped De La Paz and Holton, giving De La Paz more leverage innings, just because Holton was leading us in meltdowns or tied for the lead. He was showing a little, his ratio wasn't the best there. It was a little bit vulnerable. Don't love the left on base percentage, so going to bump him down to middle relief and see if he can kind of excel a little bit more there. And De La Paz has been so good, we felt like that was just a smart move to make. But otherwise, no other changes. We're content to sit tight with our current lineup structure and I think we ought to perform pretty well, considering we're, I think, 6th in runs scored. Yeah, and then team ERA, like, we're also pretty good. We're first in the NL. Obviously, our pitching is carrying. But yeah, I think since the scouting combine is so early in the month here, it's starting on the 7th. I may just go like a little bit uneven here. I think I'll just go a full week to the 9th. So we've got 3 on the road against San Diego off day, and then we start our little homestand here, 3 series at home. But we're just going to go through this first one against Houston and then maybe this first game against Philly, and I want to kind of wrap around at the end of the scouting combine to kind of review who may be available. But without further ado, yeah, let's get into some games. And we're going to jump back here on the 11th now. You can see we've gone 5-3 so far through the month of June. So, kind of just hanging around, maintaining first in the division though. So we haven't lost any ground. I think everyone is kind of just settling into like a 500 streak of play here. So we're still 1 up on Cincinnati this time. It looks like they have kind of jumped over the Cubs at some point. Maybe I didn't see that before, but we're now competing with them for the lead in the division. No major updates as far as like on the field performance. I was taking a look at the lineups to see sort of who was hitting. We have this filtered for stats accrued so far in June. We're not really getting much production out of our catchers at the moment. Our top hitters are Termar. Aiden Miller is still like hitting a lot, you guys. I'm like, almost to the point where I want to start him full time. It's just it goes against everything I had expected of him so far this season, but he's crushing the ball again through 5 games, almost 20 plate appearances, and Mark Vientos has kind of just been like whatever. So I think I'm going to wait a little bit longer, but it's probably like sunk cost fallacy, like continuing to run Mark Vientos as the everyday starter. We may look to make a change. Cedric Mullins is doing well. It looks like Gonzalez is doing well. So, I mean, still pretty early here. And Wyatt Sanford has a bruised knee, if you're wondering what that is. So hopefully nothing too serious there. But this is kind of, who's hitting so far. Like I mentioned, 5-3. So we'll take it. As far as the scouting combine, though, it's functioning a little bit differently than it did last year, you guys. When I was looking at this last year, I remember, we didn't have very high scouting accuracy on many of these players at all. They were all kind of average. I don't know if this was patched recently to be more, or to function closer to the way it did in previous out-of-the-park games, because, before this scouting combine was like a thing, you would just scout the draft pool and you were able to get very high scouting accuracy on almost every player in the class. And now, or at least at the start of 26, the first couple of times we did this, that was not the case. So you could only get very high accuracy on a very limited number of players. And now it seems that that's like been reverted back to the way it used to be, where now you can just get accuracy by scouting guys, and the purpose of the combine is more to improve relationships. But that's not really how we treated this. We kind of just used the scouting combine to scout guys that we did not have very high accuracy on. So I sort of went in here and filtered, for players who were not very high scouting accuracy on, it returned a list, and then we just scouted the top potential guys. And obviously the list has like shrunk since we have done this. We've been able to move a number of guys from like average up to very high over the last 4 days of the scouting combine. So there's really just a couple remaining here who are in that 45 plus range, and we're not really scouting all of them, but I just felt like maybe that was the best choice to do, because I'm not really into the whole I don't like to gamble on my draft picks and try to underslot their value, just because I feel like the negotiations can be a little fragile, and I would hate to lose on somebody we drafted due to my own incompetence of negotiating the bonus demand. So I don't really want to play it like that. I would prefer to just kind of snipe out these guys who were a little less familiar with in terms of accuracy, and try to get them to a higher degree of like certainty with, who we think they're going to be. But as far as like, players who are intriguing to me, you can see who's drawing the most interest here. And I'll kind of show a couple of intriguing names. I don't want to go too deeply into it just because we're going to get to the draft later in this video and we're going to see who goes. But I mentioned there are several intriguing college players in this class. If we filter for college, you can see there's a lot more upper 70, 80 grade guys this year compared to previous. Certainly last draft class. Last draft class was the first computer-generated one, and really there were only a couple of college guys, and they were pitchers, Dan Beebe being one of them. But there are bats in this one, and Casey Burns is, I think, maybe the most intriguing because he's a switch-hitting second baseman. You don't love his fielding, but the bat is so far along, and like as a switch hitter from UCLA with a great competition level, he ought to be pretty good. He's got a great personality as well. I would expect him to come off the board early. But if he's there for us, it would definitely be hard to pass him up. As it stands currently, he's more effective batting from the left side against righty pitching than he is the right side against lefty pitching. So that's a bit of a, sometimes it's closer to even, but I would say this is like more of a drastic split than what you would, maybe typically see. So I think it would lead to him being more splits heavy down the line where you would, bat him lower against left-handed pitching. But he's so far along already that I think he's super interesting. And then there are, a bunch of I shouldn't say a bunch, but there are a couple outfielders here as well that I think are really interesting. Seth Cooper, Cooper Kupp, is an interesting right-handed, more of a corner outfielder for sure, probably more of a left fielder because he doesn't have the arm, but you like his personality and his speed. And you think the gap power and power could be amazing. He's a righty hitter. He's still pretty young for a college player from ECU, so a great competition level, and he's durable. So like the other switch hitter we just looked at was like 22 from UCLA. This guy's, a full year and a half younger, and he's more of a lefty masher considering he bats righty, but he can kind of hold his own against right-handed pitching. I don't know. He's like maybe not my favorite, but definitely interesting. And then similarly, Pat Jones is maybe the one I favor a little bit more in terms of college outfielders. Cooch is a similar age, out of a poor competition level though, so he's definitely more risky, but you like that he bats left and he brings the power, and he's slightly more competent in the field and still brings that good personality. So Cooch could be interesting. He's definitely demanding a pretty penny though, so I don't know that he's necessarily in our budget range. There are where if you take a step back, remember we're trying to be mindful of our finances this season and make smart decisions. So I think maybe we'll look to underslot some guys. We're looking at just like the highest demand players now. Nathan Stone is here, and I really enjoy his nickname, Prince of Black Beans. So he's a very intriguing player, and I think he has a pretty good personality. Well, actually, no, he has low work ethic. It's sort of a mixed bag with him, but as a 18-year-old infielder, I don't know that he would ever stick it short. I think the bat is interesting with him, and I mostly just like him for the nickname. So I don't know that he's for us, but he's demanding a lot of money, that's for sure. Two more college guys here we'll look at quickly. This guy's very volatile, extreme dev risk. Jeremy Dennis is a big right-handed first baseman, but you like that he's already pretty far along and he projects as a plus defender at first, which ought to be pretty good. He doesn't have the best work ethic, but at the same time, he's still so far along that how much more does he really need to develop? Not that much, but the extreme dev risk is a little bit risky there. Brendan Krickenberger, Meach, aka Meach, is a big infielder, 6'4", 200. You love his glove here, and he actually looks really awesome. Obviously at $11.5 million, he's probably not for us, but somebody's going to get a steal with him. The bat is pretty far along, maybe not as far along as you would hope for a college player, but Cal Poly great competition level. And again, this glove is really awesome. And, he looks decent against both sides. So maybe a little bit of a splits thing, but nothing so major. There was a couple of other guys who I wanted to profile at the high school level. There was a catcher I really liked and another outfielder. I know the outfielder. So Ben Small, a.k.a. Big Boy. You love that. It's like big guys named like Tiny. It's like a classic nickname for just somebody who's huge. This is the inverse. This is somebody named Small who's named Big Boy. So if we think about the other college outfielders we just looked at, like his bat is near where theirs was. It's all pretty well-rounded and good, and he has more range in center, left field, and right field. It doesn't have quite the arm, but good traits, good speed. I actually like him quite a bit, and at just 8.5, if he's there, we'd have to consider him heavily. And the other guy was a catcher. I just need to find, which one it was. There are a couple good catchers in this class. Sean Day, a.k.a. Panic, is a pretty good defender. Bats righty. He's going to walk and he's going to hit a couple dingers, but I think it's likely that his contact bat to ball never really comes along, so he is then sort of profiling into like a 3 true outcome kind of guy, which isn't bad if he brings good defense, but not my favorite. Josh Jenfer, Milkman Jim, is similar but with a better personality, and he bats left, so he's maybe a little more. I hesitate to say more well-rounded with the contact tool. It's like a marginal improvement, and he's actually worse at striking out. But you think he brings a little bit more in the power and the eye perspective. He is more expensive at 9.5, but for the personality, I think you would feel pretty good about drafting Milkman Jim. But he's not the one I was looking for. The one I like the most is this guy, Travis Martin. So he's just 18.5, 8.5 mil bonus. And he's pretty well-rounded in the sense that he's not going to strike out a ton, and he brings some degree of power. It's possible that, his eye regresses to be more like just average, and maybe the BABIP does as well, and he's not really putting the ball in play too often. So those are definitely risks, but I like the defense and the personality as well, just screams future captain. So I know we took 2 catchers last year, relatively early, both high school catchers, but I think I could be swayed to take Travis Martin just because, it would be hard to turn down an 80-grade guy with this personality that we could sort of, mold for the long term. So I would definitely consider him as well. Last guy I'll touch on, just because I'm a homer, University of Tennessee here. Obviously, this is a fictional player, but Ian Percy, lefty shortstop. Don't love the low work ethic, low IQ. That's kind of double. That's the 2 worst ones you want to have there. But you love the gap power. Everything looks pretty well-rounded here, and he's already decently far along with a good glove. Probably more of a second baseman, but he could be interesting as well at just 7 mil. So, I haven't really, there's a lot more to look at here, admittedly. And it's going to totally depend on who's available on the board for us. But if we were to look at the mock draft here, this is a guy we didn't even touch on, but Judson Earnjack is a switch-hitting center fielder from high school. And, yeah, he looks pretty good, right? This personality checks out. The power looks awesome. The eye looks awesome. He's a little bit splitsy, but, not really. It's just a kind of a 5-point difference here in his strikeout rate. So pretty balanced across the board. He's also outside of our price range. There's a couple college outfielders here. Krickenberg, who we looked at, Cooper we looked at, and Pat Jones I think we also possibly looked at. There are some other guys here. Ben Small is projected to go before we are on the clock. He goes at 9 in this mock. And the lefty catcher, Josh Jenfer, also goes. So we're projected to go with this guy, Eric Kravchenko. I don't know that I love his profile. He may have generational power and eye, but he's a little too scary for me with that strikeout rate, if I'm being honest, and he is not the best fielder. So I don't usually like taking guys like this dramatic with their profile, so I don't think he's for us. Um, we'll just have to kind of see, you guys. I don't know that we're penciled into any need. I wouldn't mind going like infielder, but at the same time, if there is like a good college pitcher, maybe we double down on that. This guy actually I do think is really good. Brent Gordon is a 22-year-old from USC, and you just look at like how far along he is, along with this personality and the velo. He's a somewhat similar profile to Dan Beebe that we took last season, except he's 10 points lower in his current overall, so he's definitely not Dan Beebe, but at the same time, like, I like all of his stuff here. The one like weak point is the changeup, but like if all this other stuff develops, he's looking really good, and effective against both sides too. Like, everything is pretty even here, so he's not going to be a liability against lefty pitching. So if we were looking at college arm, I think he's probably my favorite. And there's this other guy, Daniel Washington, as well too, the red tortoise, who is 6'4", 205 pounds. Throws a little bit softer, but still gets into the mid to upper 90s. And he's probably, they're honestly very similar. I think he has maybe like slightly higher stuff, and maybe his control is at a lower starting point, but he would be awesome as well, like, no doubt. A little bit weaker stuff against lefty batters, but just by 5 points. So this is going to be something I'm going to have to look at a lot closer. I don't know that we're coming out of the combine, with a clear option for our first pick, just because, there's so much room in front of us for, picks to be made. And, who's to say it would be impossible to know who's going to be on the board by the time we are on the clock. So I think we'll wrap the combine here. I'm going to keep pushing on through this month. I think we'll go one more week here to the 19th. So we'll finish out this series against Philly. We'll see if we can take it in the rubber match here on Sunday Night Baseball. There we go, 7:35. And then we have 3 against Florida, or Miami rather, here at home, and then wrap with a big 4-game set on the road in the Windy City. So that'll be a big one for us if we want to maintain our first place in the division. So we'll be paying attention to those games pretty closely. But let me keep pushing along here. We're almost halfway through the month at this point, so we're moving along quick, you guys. All right, guys, back here with a bit of a early check-in. We're midway through our series against Chicago, and things are going well. But I'll catch you up on the field stuff later. I wanted to come in here with a update on Jack Flaherty. He threw 49 pitches today and came away with some wrist soreness, so it's going to affect his throwing moderately, and it's set to last around 1 to 2 weeks. So I was sort of like weighing, do we risk it, keep him active, hopefully it clears up in 3 or 4 days, which I think it may. Sometimes these minor injuries, they'll recover a lot faster from, but I don't know if I want to risk it. I think we just throw him on the 15-day, and then he'll come back in 2 weeks and be fine. So I think that's going to be the plan. And I was looking at potential moves for us to make on our 40. You can see there's been a couple of injuries. Jaden Woods looks like has a mild shoulder strain, and he's not ready to come back. He would have probably been my first choice because he's kind of proved it at the majors earlier this season, but I think he's probably off the table with this shoulder thing. Speaking of which, other injuries, Gavin Turley suffered a fractured cheekbone, so that's a little bit of a damper on his season. But the guy I think I want to call up, funnily enough, is, you look at all of our pitching options here on the 40-man. I think Bubba Chandler is maybe going to be the guy we call up because all of his underlying metrics here are pretty positive. The whip is a little high, but positive ERA, FIP is positive as well. Caper 9 looking pretty good. Hitter setting 205, stranding runners at a decent clip. He's not made a tremendous amount of starts. He was getting some bullpen work as well, but I think maybe we'll just call him up and see what happens. It might just be a fun little mid-season storyline for us. So I think we're going to look to make that move. I'll keep pushing along until we get to our break and then catch you guys up on everything else. All right, guys, it's been an awesome week of baseball here for us. We lost the final game against Philly, so we ended up dropping that series, but then we come back to sweep Miami at home, go on the road, take 3 of 4 against Chicago. So we've maintained our first place in the NL Central. 45-28 now. Our team stats, we're now 11-5 in the month of June, right in line with our expected record. And it's really still just the pitching. We're top 1 in a lot of these categories. Hits allowed third, second in bullpen ERA. Good on the defense, and the zone rating is pretty decent, top third or top half. The offense is still kind of there, 6th in runs scored. Nothing so overwhelming here. We're good at drawing walks. We're second in the NL in that. But if you kind of go to the standings here, we still just have a 1.5 game lead over Cincinnati. So they've, sort of matched us in this last stretch of play here. Chicago is really fallen back, partially our doing, taking 3 of 4 against them, but they've kind of fallen off a bit, and St. Louis has sort of surged in their place. But I was looking at the expanded standings too, and this shows run differential and stuff, and we're a plus 76 run differential, which is best in the entire NL. So our pitching is doing a really good job of locking it down for us, I guess. So that's awesome to see. The only other team with a higher run differential in the majors is the Yankees at plus 89. So we're right in line with our expected record. Like I said, Cincinnati's maybe a little bit lucky. They're plus 3, and I guess you could say the same for St. Louis. They're unlucky, minus 3. So there's still not too much separation. All of these teams are hitting as well. They're all positive run differential teams. So while we have played well, we're not really separating, I guess, so much. But no big major updates. I did end up calling up Bubba Chandler. He has not gotten a start yet. Just because I sort of reshuffled the rotation to make sure Harrington and Keller got those important games against Chicago there. But Bubba should get in there soon, and we can definitely look at how he does. I think we're just going to push through to the end of the month here. It's a little bit awkward. We kind of have an off day and then the start of a series here. But 3 more on the road in the Midwest at Detroit, and then we come back home for 3 against Texas, a little interleague play, and then back on the road to the Midwest again for 3 games against Milwaukee. So we'll push through all of this, and then, of course, we get the Mets back here at home. I'll see if this is a Paul Skeens game. We did not play him early in the year, so, we're still on the lookout for that rematch against Paul Skeens as well. But let's go ahead and wrap up June together, guys. I'll be back in a sec. All right, guys, I got bad news. The bottom has sort of fallen out here in the back of June. We're 2-8 over the games we just simulated, and while, there's been no major catastrophic injury or anything like that has, caused all of this, I think it's just our bats have gone cold. We're not hitting nearly as much. We're just putting up, 1 run here, 1 run here, no runs here, 2 runs here, no runs here. The offense has just been a little bit sporadic, and the pitching has been a little bit more vulnerable, and combine those 2 things, it's just not a good week of baseball for us. So you can see here, we've now dropped to second in the division, and there's a sizable gap of 4.5 games. So Cincinnati is surging at the perfect time, to kind of vault us. We're still top in the wild card, which is good, but hopefully we can turn this around. I don't want to, just completely tank in the back half. So this is kind of the first little bit of adversity we've hit this season. Bubba did make 2 starts, if you were wondering, and the first one did not go well at all. I think this was him. He only went 2 2/3, gave up 6, 3 homers, just a terrible outing for Bubba. And then I think he came back in possibly this game. Yeah, he made another start here. Went slightly better, 4 2/3, only gave up 1 homer, walked 3 though, only striking out 1. So thankfully he's not going to be with us much longer. Jack Flaherty just has 1 day left on the IL, and Burrows is scheduled to get the next game. So we're just going to bring Flaherty right back. It was just a sore wrist, so I don't think he needs a rehab start off of just such a minor injury. So we'll just kick Chandler out, bring back Flaherty, bump everyone back down to their, rightful spot in the order, and hopefully that will be enough to turn things around for us. Like I mentioned, the hitting just has gone cold. Sanford's not hitting, Reynolds is still awful. Vientos has climbed a little bit more above the Mendoza, so I think he's doing okay. He's doing better. I keep flipping him and Aiden Miller, and eventually Aiden Miller was just making so many bizarre errors at third base. I got really upset and just threw Vientos back out there, and I think he's responded pretty well to that. We had a couple pieces of news items come across, though. First, June's top pitcher in the NL was actually Mike Burrows. He was 4-0 with a sub-1 ERA, and he's been really kind of good for us lately. His numbers on the year are looking very strong. ERA plus at 126. The FIP is in a good spot. He's not walking a ton of guys, and he's just pretty well rounded overall. He's still in, I think, ARB 1, so he has ARB 2 coming up next. Should be relatively modest, 3.8 mil. I think it's likely he returns first next year as just the 4 or 5 in the rotation because he is a very popular player. I do enjoy having him, but nice to see. It's always good to get contribution from those guys lower in the pitching order. We also got a new message from our owner here. Bob is pleased with some things. He's excited about our record, not so excited about our batting average and the loss of Paul Skeens. We kind of went over this before or in the previous episode, but I think if we're going to get a new contract, it's going to be on the back of our record. So we really need to finish strong here down in the second half. As far as top prospects go, Danny Jimenez is back to number 3 now. He is playing in the DSL full-time, and we've seen his potential rating drop from an 80 to a 65. Kind of just always happens. I think it's partly due to our scout as well. AJ Preller is really good at scouting players internationally and amateur, but as soon as they move to the minors, he's only good at scouting the minor leagues. So maybe he's losing a little bit of, or their true potential is maybe a little hidden here in the minor league compared to what we saw when he was at the complex, or when we signed him out of international free agency. But he's not really hitting for much slug. If you look at his ratings relative to the league, he's more of just kind of a well-rounded, balanced hitter. He doesn't have a standout attribute yet, so he's kind of just a negative WAR player for us at the moment. But he's moved up to number 3. Dan Beebe has moved up to number 4, and he's only got 1 week of recovery time left at the high A level. So we're in the process of rescouting him. And then, depending on how many games are left at high A, we may give him 1 or 2 and then bump him up to double A, because I would really like to, move him along. I think I would maybe even want to push for him to make a major league debut prior to the playoffs, just so he's playoff eligible for us, because I could see him, being a big factor for us there if we, end up making the playoffs and need somebody to hold down leverage innings, whether that's as a starter or out of the bullpen. It could go either way. But as far as top systems, we're still number 1 by a large margin, almost 60 points of separation between us and Tampa. So we have Dan Beebe. Connor Griffin is still 29th. Pitcher Willie Sandoval, who we have in the DSL, our big-time control guy who throws low 90s. He's a very weird profile, but he's valued very highly by the... I guess he does throw left, so he is a little funky, I guess. But we'll kind of go into the minor league performance a bit. You can see the full ratings here. We're sort of on the brink of promoting a lot of guys to higher levels, and I can sort of call out any notable names once we do that in about a week of game time. But just wanted to give you kind of an update on all the news that's happened. Obviously disappointing to see us drop so far in the division. We're still ranked highly in the power rankings, ranked 4th. I think it's more of just a just a bit of a cold streak for us, a little June gloom. But next we have the draft coming up on July 11th. Before that, however, I did want to look to promote all the prospects here on July 5th. So I think this is going to be just a short update of game time here, where we finish out our series against New York and then 3 at home against St. Louis. So we've already dropped the first game. I hope we can start July hot and bounce back here before it's too late. But let me handle these games. I think it is notable, I guess, that we do have Paul Skeens here in this one. So it'll be Paul Skeens versus Mike Burrows to start July. So we'll be sure to check in on how that goes. But let me run through all of this. I'll be back with some minor league news in just a bit. All right, guys, we're back here. Not too much to speak of on the field. 3-2 record. We did end up losing the Paul Skeens game, even though we got 7 hits. They kind of jumped on us a little early, and we couldn't quite recover. So, we're still kind of holding steady, playing 500 ball. Skeens did have a positive game score against us, though. But you can see we're 5.5 back now in the division. So, Cincinnati's 9-1 over their last 10. They are just red hot, and we are sort of treading water a bit. But like I mentioned, I've gone through our whole minor league system now that, the rookie ball season has wrapped. We're on the 6th here, so rookie ball has wrapped, and a lot of the major leagues were sort of like in a transitionary, like all-star break. So I made a bunch of promotions, and I'll kind of run through who all got the bump, just because it's a good way to kind of review our minor league system as a whole. But we still have quite a few guys who are on the shelf that did not get promoted just yet. Dan Beebe still has 2 days left on his shoulder surgery, but his most recent scouting report, his movement improved to a 60, and his overall rating is now a 60. So on paper, he is our best pitcher. He's better than Jared Jones. Hopefully, he's able to come back quickly, and we can kind of push him up, really fast here. Gavin Turley also still out for a week with his fractured cheekbone, but we have such a logjam of outfielders at the AAA level that, I think it's okay that he's not playing, as weird as that may sound. I'm trying to shop a couple of the guys we have there, like Jacob Melton or Barossa, but there's just seemingly no market for them. But let's start at kind of the lowest level. So we cleared out all of our rookie ball players because obviously their season is over. So it's mostly our recently drafted high school guys here. A couple of guys did get the bump to A ball, and the first one we'll talk about. We'll look at their ratings relative to the A ball league. Jacob Parker, who, brother of JoJo Parker, we took in the 9th round of 2025. He's 21 now, and he sort of developed into a first baseman for us. He OPS'd over 1,000 in rookie ball this year, so he's getting the bump up to A ball. It'll be his kind of first shot at the upper minors. Quentin Young is still hanging out here. I felt like his performance wasn't strong enough to warrant a promotion to high A, but we did bump up Phil Goodall, our second-round pick in this most recent draft of 2027. The ratings are a little borderline. He's a 40 grade, but I felt like his slash line at rookie ball was really encouraging, and he's going to bring the good defense with that 70 outfield range. So I felt like, he's almost 20. Why not just give him a little bit more work at the A-ball level? Maybe something good happens. It's kind of aggressive with him, but felt like it might be, fun and interesting to do. So those are the only 2 bats that are notable, I think. As far as pitching goes, we have this guy, Yuli Fernsler. He's a lefty kind of control artist guy. He was our best pitcher, I think, at rookie ball this year, even though the walks are a little high. I just felt like as a 50 grade, he could, contribute here. And there's not too much else to speak of. We got Matt Champion out here. Again, his ratings are borderline, but at the same time, he's 23. We took him in the 14th round of the most recent draft. So We'll see what he can do. He wasn't like tremendous at rookie ball this year, obviously with a 7 ERA, but he was a slightly positive WAR player for us. So I'm really just looking for him to get more reps and, hopefully develop that way. But no other big pitching moves here. We did graduate a couple guys to high A, however, if we stick with the pitching. So Luke Rodriguez, our 5th round pick in 2026, you'll remember him as sort of the pitcher we took after Tyler August. He's 24 at this point, and he's pitched in A-ball the last 3 years. This is the year we drafted him. He just got a brief taste, and then last year was there full time. And honestly, his numbers sort of regressed year over year. They're not improvements, but at the same time, he's 24 years old. I think maybe just a change of scenery may do him good, and he has better relationships with the coaches at this level. So, I guess the idea is that, a fresh start for him might be good. And, he's still a 45 grade here at the high level. So it's possible he can kind of, rediscover his stuff a bit, although you do think the homers are going to be an issue. But I don't know. He's getting up there in age, so I'm just kind of, willing to be a little risky with his promotions, I guess. In the bullpen, I don't think there's too much to speak of, at least in terms of high-tier draft picks. As far as the lineup goes, we did bump Alex Harrington up. He was having a great season in A-ball, and you think there's a lot more for him to unlock here at the high level. So in 69 games at A-ball, he was a 3.1 WAR player, hit 300, OPS 870. Kind of proved all he needed to prove. He's now 21 years old, so look for him to finish out the year here at high A, and then possibly next year he could start out at double A for us, and then from there he's just a few steps away. But curious to see how he does here. The other notable guy, well, 2 more guys, Brock Kettleson, who we took in the very first draft of the Sim in 2025. We drafted him when he was 17 years old. He was originally sort of a two-way player, and we've kind of shut that down and just made him a full-time outfielder because obviously his range and defense looks insane. So he's a lefty hitter, still just 20. He's about to turn 21, so he's actually younger than Alex Harrington is, which is kind of crazy. But his season at A-ball also went really well, 17 doubles, hit 274, OPS 877, and brings that good defense out in center field, like I mentioned. So felt like he was ready. 6'4", 200, lefty hitter, it's kind of nice. But speaking of lefty hitters, Nolan Stevens as well. Honestly, he could go even higher to double A, but we just sort of have a logjam of talent, and I felt like having him sit here a little bit longer just made the most sense to maybe hopefully tap into more contact. But he's our 8th round pick in 2026, so the second draft of the series. We took him out of Mississippi State. Another kind of first base, corner, outfield, although you really kind of want him at first base DH. Just power hitter, right? He hit 21 homers, 68 RBI in 71 games at A-ball in the first half of this year, OPS 986, and he could totally play at the double A level. And I may look to revisit this if I'm being honest, but we kind of think his contact is tapped out there, whereas if we keep him at high A, he has a little bit more BABIP and contact to tap into. So I think in the long run, letting him sit here for just a bit longer is going to be more helpful. And even though he is 23 years old, he's on a little bit older than most of the other guys at this level. I think it's just a little bit too soon to push him to the upper minors, or at least given our situation at double A, which you'll see in a second, it just makes it a little difficult, I guess. But no other big names here, kind of just looking at Harrington, Kettleson, and Stevens. If we go to double A and kind of look, we have, a bunch of outfielders here and first baseman. I want Tony Blanco Jr. playing, which is why I didn't call Stevenson up, because I would like for them both to play. And the guy who kind of took Stevens' spot is Edward Florentino, who we gave the promotion from straight A ball all the way up to Double A Eastern, because he was OPSing over 1,000 at straight A ball, 184 WRC plus. He was just going off. He's a real guy who's just I think a DSL signing, or was just placed on our roster. I assume he's real. We did not find him or anything, but he's really come along and is kind of that similar profile, like corner, outfielder, first base type that Nolan Stevens is. He's 2 years younger as well. So we're kind of giving him a full jump from A ball to Double A. So that's kind of exciting to see what he can do. Joining him is Camden Koziel, who we took in the 4th round of 2026, the lefty second baseman out of Arkansas. Put together a really solid season at the high A level, hit 293, OPS 855. Felt like he was definitely ready, 22 doubles, and there's a lot more gap power and contact to tap into here at this level. And also we brought up Elian Pena, who is part of the Paul Skeens trade. He's getting more run at shortstop than second base with his 65 range. And while he's not like hitting a ton, the OPS or the WRC plus is just kind of average. Like, I think in terms of, positive defense, he's played at the high A level for 2 years now, and I kind of just wanted to graduate him. I don't know, no good reason for it. Just to kind of, I guess, free up playing time for Alex Harrington at high A. We bumped up Pena as well. Connor Griffin is going to stay here. I just felt like his stat line wasn't quite strong enough. He's only hitting 227, OPSing 746, below average, WRC plus. Like, had the numbers been stronger, I think we would have looked to have promoted him to the International League, but we may just let him ride out the rest of the year in Double A, y'all. Like, he kind of just needs to produce. I would like to see a WRC plus that's, positive before bringing him up, because, again, we have so many guys at the AAA level as well. But I think that's as far, that's all the bats we brought up. Pitching-wise, however, we have a couple of new names debuting here at the AA level, and the first of which is Tyler August, who was our second-round pick in 2026 out of the University of Delaware. You're looking at his ratings at the AA level, and like he ought to be able to do pretty good. It's just kind of these, like, not even secondary pitches, but like, his 4th and 5th pitch are a little bit underdeveloped, and the control as well is coming along, but I felt like his numbers at high A were really good. 3.7 ERA, the whip, like he's walking guys a little bit aggressively there, but the ERA plus and the FIP minus kind of indicate that he was ready, as well as the 200 batting average against. So the 23-year-old August is going to finish out the year for us at the AA level, and I'm hopeful he can look really good. We still have Santucci and Nate Snead here, as well as Cole Klecker, all guys who we've drafted, or we acquired Santucci through a trade. I just felt like his numbers weren't quite ready yet. Even though the ERA is pretty good, the walks and homers are kind of a little bit high. So I didn't, even though he's almost 25 and a half, I didn't feel like he was quite ready to take on AAA just yet. So we're keeping him down here for the time being, and same for Nate Snead. I felt like his numbers were not strong either. This is really his first taste of AA, so it's kind of a learning experience for him. Elevated ERA and FIP, so, just not quite ready yet. Other guys we pushed up to AAA now. We graduated 2 of our starting pitchers, Finn McElroy and Zane Petty. So McElroy was also taken in the first draft from UCLA in the 4th round. You'll maybe remember we drafted him after he had Tommy John surgery, and he was like unable to pitch for us in his first year with our organization. But ever since coming back, like, he's been a positive WAR player at every level, and this year at the AA level, he was putting together a really strong season with, positive ERA plus. The FIP was looking really good. FIP minus at just a 65, only walking 2.5 per 9, striking out 10. So Felt like he was ready for the aggressive promotion, even though, he's only coming in at a 45 overall. Like, you think there's a lot more control to unlock, and, we hope he can find a little more movement and develop these secondary pitches. But he's kind of, I don't know, proven himself. He's bounced back in a major way, so maybe we have something here with him. And then, like I mentioned, the other guy was Zane Petty, who we had, highlighted him early or a couple of years ago in the sim in 2026 as having really strong seasons, and he's kind of built on that. His AA numbers are, minor improvements year over year. The ERA plus is now positive, and the FIP minus is also positive. He is walking more guys this year, or was at the AA level. But similar, like, I just kind of felt like maybe he needed an aggressive change of scenery, and I think he was named to, the Eastern League All-Star game. Yeah, so I kind of felt like he accomplished all he could at the AA level. So, him being 24 and, near 25, felt like it was right for him to pitch at the AAA level to finish the season. So we'll see if either of those guys ends up coming along. They're kind of the nearest prospects, I guess, we have, that are like where they may debut pretty soon from a pitching perspective. Like, obviously, we still have Jaden Woods here, who we like, and Bubba Chandler has now been relegated to the bullpen. I think we may be done here, unless there's some miraculous comeback down the line. But lineup-wise, nearly done here, guys. The only major call-up was Edward Lantigua, who just looks tremendous. Like, he's already a 60 grade at AAA. If we were to go to the majors, he would already be a 45 grade. But he, played 72 games at the AA level. He OPS'd over 1,000, hit 24 homers. So big first half of the season at AA for him. And you love his defense. And we have like a total logjam of outfielders. Like, Antuniez isn't even playing, and he's OPSing over 1,000. We have Polanco, Suero Barossa, Jacob Melton, and Valdez as well. And not to mention Gavin Turley, who is due back in 1 week from injury. So, like I mentioned, I'm going to try to shop some of these guys to see what we can do at the trade deadline and maybe free up some playing time here. But, no other big major moves at AAA, but I did want to spotlight the performance of Dean Curley. He's having a crazy season at AAA. He's hit 23 homers. He's pacing for 42, and he's already at 69 RBI. He's OPSing over 1,000. So his slugging has just been awesome at the AAA level. And, I kind of feel like he could give us similar production to what we get out of Mark Vientos currently. So I don't know that there's a huge difference in, maybe what he brings to the table compared to Vientos. And it's also funny to note he's older than Aiden Miller. He's older by half a year than Aiden Miller, which I didn't really put together how young Aiden Miller truly is. But I don't know that Curley is ready to contribute to the majors, because you can see he still has potential to unlock here at AAA currently playing. But if we were to move him to the majors, he loses, across most categories apart from the strikeout rate. So even though his production has been tremendous, there's still more power to unlock: gap power, BABIP, and contact. I do think next year he'll make a strong case to make the opening day roster, however. Just wanted to highlight kind of his, first half. But that was a lengthy... It was helpful to check in on the prospects, I think. Sometimes we can go whole seasons without seeing them, I guess. But next up, we're going to just power along to the draft. We have it on the 11th here, and then we'll simulate up to our pick, and we can kind of see who's available. I'll try to keep it brief, guys. I know this has gone on pretty long, so let's speed along here and try to wrap up. And we have finally made it to the draft, you guys. So, not too many updates, where we kind of just split our remaining games there, 5 and 4. So far through the month of July, sitting 7.5 back now in the division. So it's crazy how quickly things can change. Cincinnati has just been red hot, and they're perpetually 9-1 or 10-0. They're just refusing to let off the gas, and we are kind of stagnating. So obviously not ideal. The only notable thing that happened in the last couple of days was an injury to Cedric Mullins, where he suffered a foot contusion that was going to put him out, unable to play for 1 week. So we threw him on the 10-day, and our corresponding move was to call up our old buddy Jacob Melton, who has only got action in one game so far, but at AAA was OPSing 900 and was hitting both sides, left and right. So I figured he was the safest call to come up and just kind of fill that defensive role for us at the bottom of the order. But now we've finally made it to the draft, so let's kind of take a look at like who may be available to us. This is what we've been building toward all episode. As you remember, we picked 16th, so we're kind of just gonna roll through these first couple of picks here and see how the board unfolds. I'm not even gonna bother looking at prospects just yet, but I guess before we advance, we do have $10 million allocated toward this, so we need to be somewhat cost effective. We're projected to operate at a loss this season. I don't want to go crazy ham with the draft budget, even though we do have a good chunk of available money sitting here. So we're gonna try to play this smart and just kind of see who is available to us. But I'm just gonna go pick by pick here all the way down to 16. So we'll see who goes 1-1. It's Detroit first up, and they go Brendan Krickenberger, the Cal Poly shortstop. Meach. We had looked at him at the combine, and we really liked his defense. Tremendous at turning double plays and a great arm, the 70 great arm. But at 11.5, that's outside of our whole budget. If we have 10.5 allocated, it's definitely going to be out. It looks like the Athletics like Daniel Washington, and they do. So they take the pitcher from Vandy, Red Tortoise, who we also quite liked, who's a bit of an odd mix, primary pitches a slider, but he also has the sinker cutter, so he's got some stuff with velocity. They go pitcher at 2, so 2 college players off rip. The White Sox go Judson Earnjack, the switch-hitting outfielder who was projected to go number 1 in the mock draft. So a couple of the top guys off the board early. We'll see if we sort of like Ben Small, if you remember. We'll see if he makes it to us. He's at number 3 on the draft pipeline, and projected to it looks like not go in the mock draft. So maybe there's an outside chance he's available to us. But let's see who Washington likes. They go Jeremy Dennis, the kind of less desirable personality first baseman out of Ohio University, also outside of our price range. The Angels will take Brent Gordon. We had looked at him out of Southern Cal. He was kind of the other college pitcher we really liked, so he's not going to be an option for us at just $5 million bonus demand. They go way under slot there. Cincinnati up, division rivals, go Seth Cooper, the college outfielder out of East Carolina. We also looked at him. We liked his durability and obviously the gap power and power, so he ought to really hit homers in their park should he develop. Houston goes Pat Jones, I believe college outfielder, yes, but he was from a smaller school with a poor competition level, but still a good personality. Chooch was his nickname. And Philly goes CJ Horwitz, another outfielder, Unito out of UCF in Orlando. So a lot of college players so far. Miami here will go Josh Jenfer, the catcher that we liked. Not the one we liked the most, however. This is Milkman Jim. So he will unfortunately be off the board for us and unavailable. But Chicago up next. Let's see who they like. They go Bill Files, who I did like, the high school righty. Definitely has a long way to go with his control, but you think the movement can be tremendous, and he's a ground ball pitcher. He throws decently hard already with good stamina. Good competition level. Out of, looks like California. Yeah, San Juan. So I think that's a good pick for them. Only a couple more here till we get to our guys. So San Francisco goes Miguel Brown, the 18-year-old righty, El Rubio. Definitely a huge fastball, 90 grade on that. It's like off the charts good. And a big slider changeup as well. So only a 3-pitch guy, but his 3 pitches are elite. And, medium dev risk for a high schooler is pretty good. Tampa goes Mike Rodman, the high school shortstop CB, who projects to be just an okay defender, probably more of a second baseman, but, lefty bat with big power, good eye, great BABIP. For $9 million, they take him. Arizona next up goes Casey Burns, the switch-hitting second baseman out of UCLA, so he does not make it to us. It would have been exciting to draft him, I think, but, you like the personality, obviously switch hitter from a great competition level. You can feel good about him, making it to the majors pretty quickly, I think. And just 2 more picks now, San Diego and Chicago again. So San Diego will go Nathan Stone, the Prince of Black Beans, who he's going to be unavailable to us. So sorry, guys, we can't get the Prince of Black Beans on our team. Just kind of brutal. He was out of our price range anyway, so I'm just half joking. But sad to see him off the board for us. So Ben Small is within reach for us here, as long as the Cubs don't take him. Let's see what they do. And they go Andy Vasquez, the 17-year-old right fielder with the big power, 3 true outcome guy from Perry, Ohio. So we've got like a good mix of guys here. There are, our scout would have us go with Ben Small, and, having not looked at anything yet, I think I tend to agree. Just because he's so far along for a high schooler. Big boy has 80 potential, medium dev risk, plus defensive ability, good speed, and only 8.5 mil, so he's not going to totally break the bank for us. I believe it's over slot by a bit. If we go to, our slot value is 6.1, so it's definitely over slot, but it is within budget. You can see the slot values here. But within budget, I would say we can just kind of underslot our next few picks if we wanted to go after him. Our scout also likes Bill Weiner, Ramrod, the 6'6", 17-year-old, who's definitely very far away in multiple attributes. His pitcher, 2 pitches in the 20s, control at 25. I think this is probably a little too risky for my taste, but he is cheap at only a 1.4 mil valuation. Kravchenko, we looked at earlier. I think, this is too dramatic of a, profile for me to consider, even though, I could see him hitting 40 or 50 bombs at the majors, down the line. I just think it's too risky for me, so he's probably not an option. And then Travis Martin is the catcher we liked the most, so it's kind of I'm thinking something up the middle here, catcher, shortstop, center field, that type of vibe. So he would definitely fit that profile. I think he would be our, best catcher in our system, obviously. And, good personality, projects to be a future captain, good defense. Just 18, I think he could be awesome, but it's just comes down to, do you value that over Ben Small? When I think about our system, we have a ton of outfielders, and we just took Phil Goodall in the last draft. Not that, that would prevent us from taking Ben Small. I think they would both be tremendous outfielders, and you could say Ben Small maybe projects to be more of a left fielder long-term with his lack of an arm, and Goodall is a true center fielder. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. We'll take a bit of a further look here at the draft pipeline. So this is the consensus scouting rank. Ian Percy, who we had looked at from University of Tennessee, the lefty shortstop, looks pretty well-rounded, ought to be able to debut quickly. He's durable. He's a bit cheaper at just 7 mil, but I don't love the low work ethic, low IQ. And I don't know. If we were going to go middle infielder, I think I would prefer high school. Just because I don't want to get in. I'm still committed to making Alex Arrington work. I don't want to get in the way of his a runway. And we also have guys like Elian Pena and Camden Cozile, who are now at the AA level. They could possibly play for us down in the future. Let's look at this Ray Wiggins guy. So this is a college junior from UCF who, is only a 3-pitch guy. The changeup is, it needs a lot of work, but high work ethic, pretty good control. I don't know that he's like tremendous. I mean, he's really cheap. Maybe he would be around in the second round for us, possibly. But Travis Martin is here as well. He's at number 10. Aaron Patterson, I'm not sure why he's valued so highly, other than just he's a lefty with big, loud stuff potential. So that's probably why. Let's see if we can find any other like big names here. So Manny Vizcarra is a third baseman who profiles as like a contact first for third baseman, maybe more of a second baseman, although he is 6'4". But he could play a little outfield as well. Good personality. Just doesn't really bring that power profile you would want from a corner infielder, but he looks good, and he's decently far along at a $5 million signing bonus. Let's see who else. I mean, there's a bunch of other 60 grade guys here who we can take a look at in a sec, but I was kind of looking at these like really, blue guys, 80, 70, 80 grade guys. Let's go to the full draft pool. It'll be easier to see like this. So I don't even want to look at relievers. I just want to look at starters right now. So we already looked at Bill Weiner. We think he's pretty risky and far away. So the 17-year-old is maybe not my preferred choice. Luis Carrillo is also 17, and he looks a little further along, but maybe like less so in some categories compared to if we go to Bill Weiner. His fastball is further along, and his BABIP is further along. Carrillo is just sort of more well-rounded in the 30 range. This next guy, Chris McNay, is a right-hander from San Diego State, so a bit more fully developed. We had maybe looked at him as well too. I'm sort of losing track of who we looked at and who we didn't. But honestly, he looks pretty good. I don't love the BABIP being just 45 with no further potential there. But his pitches look okay. He doesn't have anything with break. He just has like fastball, changeup, like off speed kind of stuff. Nothing like horizontal with his pitch mix. So that's kind of weird. And then now we're dipping down into the guys who are like in the 65 range. So we'll look at the college guys here, I guess. Jason Andrews is a lefty from Georgia Southern. So I don't really love the stuff here, and the lack of velo is kind of a turnoff. So I don't think with our first round pick this makes a ton of sense for us. Bobby Martinez is from looks like the complex, or no, he's from Puerto Rico. Went to Texas or Tennessee Tech. I mean, really loud fastball slider, has the potential to throw close to 100 with good work ethic and baseball IQ. I actually like him quite a bit. Control is decent. It's likely going to settle in at like the 45-40 range. I don't know that it's a guarantee he would get to 50. So he's like definitely very good, but I don't know that I love him at 16. And then we had looked at Ray Wiggins. Ray Wiggins is the other one we looked at. He does have the cutter and the curve, so he has some stuff with more break here. And again, his control being plus probably makes him my favorite pitcher out of all the the ones we've looked at. So I would say he's probably my favorite. Although Chris McNay, as well, he lacks the breaking stuff. He does look good though. Is there anyone else here worth looking at? I don't think so. Jason Solis from University of Houston. Seems pretty good. 4-pitch mix. Everything could be pretty decent. The cutter needs a lot of work, but you like the 55 control upside, and the movement seems to be there as well. So maybe we look to grab him, in a later round. That's definitely a possibility. But there's no pitcher kind of grabbing my eye, so I'm thinking maybe we go batter here. And we've kind of narrowed in on like Travis Martin and Ben Small. We like quite a bit. Sean Day is here as well, and he's a righty catcher who I just don't quite like as much as the other catcher, and he's more expensive. He would like fully exhaust our draft budget wanting 10 mil. So I don't think he's our guy. We have Rich Taylor who wants 8 mil, who's a righty infielder, but doesn't really bring the glove I would like. And the power is sort of underdeveloped, so there's no guarantee that he, fully realizes the 70 grade potential there. I don't know that I love him. Adam Woods as a first baseman, Mr. Reliable, has a less desirable personality, so I think that's likely just an immediate no for me. Casey Johnson here. We only have a couple of 70 grade guys. We'll just look at all of them. Casey Johnson is a center fielder who, I think profiles like maybe a little bit more power than Small, who we tend to favor. He's not quite the fielder that Small is. If we just go back to Small, Small, like they have similar power profiles, and Small has more contact upside. So I still kind of favor Ben Small. Aiden Key, I think, is interesting out of the first baseman. I remember looking at him. Projects as a plus fielder, and you like the lefty first baseman. He's a little older, 19, but he's 6'4", 220, and like all of this looks pretty good. He does have low leader, and his mind tends to wander, so he's not exactly focused and dialed in, but he's somewhat interesting to consider. We have a switch hitting shortstop here, Tom Lepic, who looks to be very contact forward, kind of like a Nick Gonzalez kind of thing going on here, like without the eye. And you don't really think he would ever stick at short. I don't think. He's 6'3", 180, so he's maybe more of a third baseman. Yeah, third base, second base. But switch hit. Looks a little more successful against left-handed pitching, but just 3.4 mil on the expected bonus demand there. And then two final guys here. We have George Page, who looks pretty good for a contact outfielder, although the fielding is like not there at all. So he is durable, which I guess is a point in his favor, but like where would you play him? I don't love him. And then the last guy here was this 22-year-old Manny Vizcarra, 6'4", 200 pounds. Good personality and good fielding. But again, like kind of lacks the power you would expect from a third base bat. So I don't know that I love any of them. This guy's a college guy. He's already a 30 overall. We'll take a look at him. Jeremy Boizo, switch hitting, right fielder, although he's maybe more of a left fielder, but a good personality. Doesn't have great pop at the dish. A little more effective against right-handed pitching, I guess. Yeah, definitely so. He's a little bit older, though. He's almost 23 and only a fair competition level, so he's maybe a little bit risky. Are there any other like shortstops here that I'm missing out on? If we just go to shortstops. So, yeah, Rich Taylor we looked at. He has no fielding. Tom Lepic we looked at. The next guys are in the 65 grade range. We have Tanner Rolston, who's a Canadian, poor competition level. Really more of a corner infield type. Doesn't have much range at shortstop. Although he is interesting, but I don't know that I love him. Also not a shortstop here with Ruben Santa Maria, but he's from LSU, a great competition level. So he could be decent. It looks like he's good on the base paths and has a high work ethic, but an extreme dev risk. So it's possible he just like totally falls apart. Has like no arm either, so don't love that. Ray Stawicki. Again, like all of these shortstops this year, like none of them can field, so I'm sort of like turned off by the idea of taking one. And Greg Vogt, 18-year-old, more of a second baseman, although maybe he could grow into a shortstop. I don't know. He has great speed. He has tremendous speed. Does he have outfield range? He does not have an outfield arm. So definitely more of a contact first kind of guy. Did we miss anyone? I mean, there are guys here like Keith Harrington, who is fragile. Again, can't field. Butch Belu, very contact forward. I don't know, guys. I think maybe we'll cut it off here. If I had to give my thoughts, I think we're looking at two players, Travis Martin and Ben Small. It just comes down to, do we go center fielder, who may end up bouncing to left field in the long run, or he could stick at center. You never know. He's got good range. Ben Small, I do like all of this being so well-rounded, and he's very even across both sides of the plate. I think he would be relatively safe for a high school center fielder. Or do we go Travis Martin, the catcher, who projects to be a very plus defender, good clubhouse leader? What do you guys think we need more in our system? They're both the same exact bonus demand. Let me know if you lean one way or the other, but I think those are the two we're down to deciding, between. I don't think there are any pitchers really worth our consideration. Maybe you could look at Bill Weiner, who's just 17, but again, I think he's too far away. And same for Luis Carrillo, and same for Chris McNay, although, he's not as far away. I think he's projected to go much later. So let's look at the mock here too. Maybe this will. So Ben Small is projected to go at 22, and Travis Martin was projected to go with the previous pick. So I think it's unlikely either one of them makes it back to us on our second round pick. So I think we're down to those guys. We'll take a look. I'll study up on, where everyone else is projected to go. But if you feel strongly one way or the other, this is your chance to make your voice heard. Do we go Ben Small, or do we go with the catcher, Travis Martin? But thank you guys so much for watching. We'll wrap it up here. As always, I appreciate your support and your time spent on all these videos. It's great to see everyone continuing to return to the series. Next episode, we'll look to, wrap up the draft. We'll do a couple rounds on camera, and then I'll loop back with kind of a full recap of how everyone, or all the picks we've made, and then we'll push along through the All-Star break. We'll review any notable news that comes out around that time, and then we'll look ahead to the trade deadline. So I didn't really touch on team needs, but if you have thoughts on that as well, and pieces we could look to add. I don't know that we're gonna be making any major moves like we did last year with the Isak Paredes trade. I just don't know that we have open slots on the roster. I don't want to send anyone down necessarily in order to make room for a new player. And I do think we can look forward to maybe Dan Beebe contributing in the back half of the season. Maybe that's our addition down the stretch that kind of pushes us over. But that's enough for today, guys. Like I said, I really appreciate your thoughts on the draft or the trade deadline. But I'll be back with you soon for a new episode where we'll look to tackle the draft and wrap up the rest of July and set up for the second half. So thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with a new video for you soon.